This episode is sponsored by Furniture Box. Check them out in the description below.
I think anyone can do anything.
Do you plan on being the woman for skin of colour?
100%.
We've got Dr. Vanita Rattan.
Skincare guru Vanita Rattan.
Author of Skin Revolution, Dr. Vanita Rattan.
Hello, I'm Dr. Vanita Rattan. The product you're buying in your local drugstore are cheap product. The vast majority of skincare was made for Caucasian skin, and 5/7 of the world's population have skin of colour.
What made you want to make the move to become a figure in social media?
It's hard to be anonymous and have a brand. And so one reel that looks like a 1 minute reel would have taken me 3 hours to edit.
What would be your advice to someone that's trying to find what that passion is exactly?
If it exists, don't do it.
What are the essential products?
I'd say
What sectors do you think are going to be the longest to survive an AI revolution?
I think a lot of the degrees we're looking at now are going to be obsolete. I'm non-sponsored, so I don't accept money from anybody, but I have been given blank checks basically by every major skincare company. And so when I started exposing product after product after product, I had a really horrible experience at 14. I want to wear foundation to cover my acne, but the foundation's making the acne worse. Kids of 9, 10 years old are starting to get acne and their parents are sort of ignoring it. People didn't realize this because there's a curtain on the cosmetic world and no one's going to expose it. My biggest problem right now, and I get a lot of flack for it, is
How do you scale?
people can go bankrupt by trying to grow too fast, and it really is soul crushing so if you want long-term growth, that has to come from
Guys, welcome to the Ground Floor Podcast, the podcast where we ask successful people exactly how they did it. Our guest today is fantastic. We've got Dr. Vanita Rattan. She's a cosmetic formulator. Got that right?
Yeah,
I thought so. And she's the owner of the skincare line Skin by Dr. V. And I wanted to make a note of this as well. She is also the author of the book Skin Revolution, the ultimate guide to beautiful and healthy skin of color. If you have ever had any problems with your skin, as I definitely have, you are not going to want to miss this episode. Vanita, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. We were literally about to say right before we started that how we met was like a very strange situation because we were at a corporate event and from I think a mutual friend, and it was a great event. It was really cool.
It was so much fun.
So much fun, really cool. And I was actually hosting the event. I was booked to host as a comedian, and wasn't the best crowd I've ever had.
I'd give you that. Yeah, I'd give you that.
It was
a tough crowd.
It was a really tough crowd. You know what it is? So many people in that crowd hadn't won a prize.
Yes.
True. Yeah, true. A lot of people just weren't there who had one.
So they're not on the on top form. So
it's hard to make people laugh when they just had their dreams crushed. You know,
exactly.
That's like a really hard thing to do.
Where'd you go from there?
So, but it was just I was just there like looking at him, and I could see his face.
Yeah.
So like,
is that some sort of like slur?
No, it's kind of because it was I could see him, and I was just when everything's going to shit, and I could just look at him, and he's just sitting there like, this is going exactly how you think it's going.
Oh my god, is that what you were doing with your face?
Yeah, pretty much.
No, like encouraging.
No. That's not what best friends are for.
Yeah,
come on,
we don't do that around here.
That's so funny.
None of that.
Someone's falling, we take the raft away.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. But all of this is to say that after the show, it was not the best, and you came up to me specifically, and I didn't know you, and you were like, I know the crowd was awful, but you were hilarious.
You were so funny.
And that really, I needed that in that moment. Every now and then you have a bad gig, and I was like, this is the worst thing in the world. And you came up to me, and it was so sweet. And then obviously we got talking, and I found out about all the amazing things you do, and here you are. But that was a really nice moment. A nice way to meet someone.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. You were really funny, actually. And I was having a great night anyway, so it was all...
That's the main thing. Okay,
people were liking the collagen, so I was really happy.
Yeah. Well, we've got the clip. She said I'm really funny, so we can just cut it there pretty much. So, Vanita, for anyone that doesn't know you, can you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Of course. So I'm a skincare doctor. I specialise in skin of colour. And so when I first started, I completed my medical degree, and then I became a cosmetic formulator. And what I learned was the vast majority of skincare was made for Caucasian skin. And it really comes down to representation. So who's in the decision-making seat? And often we actually really didn't have any cosmetic formulators with skin of colour who had done clinical trials on skin of colour. And I had to do this for my clinic anyway. But then COVID hit, and I'd had 4 clinics around the country, and it was the second lockdown, and we were hemorrhaging money. And I remember thinking, we have to make a decision, but we have limited information. We don't know if we're going to have a 3rd, 4th, 5th lockdown. We really, didn't know anything, and we were paying for staff as well because they didn't get furlough. So this is all coming out of our savings, but at the same time, I had my own laboratory. And I was starting on social media a couple of years ago, but, very, very small numbers. So I thought, is it possible for me to become quite big on social media and to use my laboratory to create product that we can sell globally, and use the information that I'm learning from researching all the other brands to see where the gaps in the market are for skin of color. And so that's basically what we did. Within 2 years, we hit 2.5 million followers.
Wow.
It just grew very rapidly. I got the book deal with HarperCollins, and then our products, we launched 35 products in a year and a half, which usually you launch 2 products a year.
That's insane.
So it was just, you kill yourself to achieve what you need to achieve in a very limited time frame. That's basically what I did. And I was just very grateful that actually it was well received. The gap was huge in the market, actually, because, for example, if you're going to create an anti-aging cream for someone with Caucasian skin, they're going to need complete different ingredients to an anti-aging cream for someone with skin of color.
It's that different.
It's
That's
that
crazy.
different.
Wow.
So I'll tell you the difference. For Caucasian skin, wrinkles are your number one concern.
Right.
That happens first. For skin of color, our number one concern is hyperpigmentation and dull skin. That happens before the wrinkles.
Wow.
Okay.
I've just never thought about it like that. Like, yeah.
Exactly. So when you create an anti-aging cream, it's not just one size fits everybody. And 5/7 of the world's population have skin of color. And that's part of the reason we grew so rapidly. And now we have a lot of cosmetic formulators who follow me and will learn and improve their own formulas for some of the biggest skincare companies down the world. So touch wood, I think it's all come together really nicely. But at the beginning, we didn't know if anyone even cared about what I was teaching.
No, of course. Why do you think no one had done that before for skin of color specifically?
For a couple of reasons. Number one, you have to have skin of color yourself to know what the problem is. Number two, you have to really have the pockets to be able to fund this. Because even if you know what the problem is, even if you have the education and you are the cosmetic formulator, often you don't have the money in order to put 200, 300 grand behind an idea like that. And that was just our initial starting point. Plus I had my own laboratory. So I was set to do this, if that makes sense.
And it was still expensive.
And even then it was quite expensive. That was also coming from my savings, which was, a quite difficult time when everyone was struggling. So I'm just lucky, touch wood, that it all worked out. But easily I could have failed, and I don't even know where I'd be at this point.
What I'm curious about is when you completed your medical degree and you were already in that field, what made you want to make the move to become a figure in social media and become a public figure? Because a lot of doctors, I can't name 5 doctors off the top of my head probably. So what made you want to make that move?
Actually, it was someone who was working for me at the time, Noreen, and she said, "Doc, you've got to be on social media." And at this time, so imagine Facebook came out after I got married. So I got married at 25. Facebook came out after that.
Wow.
So I'm 40 this year. And I didn't grow up with social media. I was thinking, hold on, am I too old for this? There were all these beautiful young girls on social media in their bikinis. Like, why do they want to see me in my lab coat teaching about niacinamide? Who wants to see that?
Niacinamide's where it's at. Like, I tell you, nothing gets me going. Yeah, as a red-blooded male, nothing gets me going like niacinamide.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
This is new though, right? 2 years ago, no one even knew what that word was. Yeah. But now we all know. So I think lockdown happened and everyone really got into their skincare and people really wanted the education. So actually it was Noreen who first started me and gave me the confidence to just make the first few videos. But then lockdown hit and I didn't have a choice. And basically I had to get onto YouTube and we made 5 videos a week on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah, and those had to be long form. And so plus I was on TikTok and Instagram. So I was working on everything, releasing content daily and in the comment section of everything. So for a year and a half, I don't even think my kids saw me that much because I was just, trying to build our online presence in order to survive COVID, really.
Yeah, I think people really underestimate the content game.
Yeah.
Like putting out on all platforms. It's a lot of work.
Absolutely.
And 5 long form videos a week. I'm guessing, were you scripting those videos?
Yep, scripting them, filming
that's
them.
Mental.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much work.
That's so impressive. And then also doing the socials alongside it.
Editing, I think, is the biggest thing. So YouTube, touch wood, I had outsourced the editing, but Instagram and Reels, I edited everything myself. And so one reel that looks like a 1 minute reel would have taken me 3 hours to edit.
Oh yeah. Just for reference, Barney, our producer, is just giving a very knowing look off the camera because that does take up a lot of it. So obviously you built up an audience. How long did it take you to kind of build? Because I think that's also, in terms of building an audience, that's a really big thing too, because getting, from 0 to 10K, I think is probably in many ways harder than getting from 10 to 50.
Yeah.
I think that's where most people struggle. How did you initially take care of that?
I think you're completely right. I think the first 10K are the hardest. And I just think it's consistency. I think people think, oh, if I just post one a week, you're not really going to grow. For now, for example, YouTube, I do one video a week at this point, and I'm growing the same as when I was doing 5 videos a week at the beginning. It's almost like you need the maximum amount of effort at the beginning. Do you know when you're going to have a rocket launch, the majority of your fuel is used in the first 5 seconds? Yep. It's the same thing here. You need everything in for the first 6 months, I'd say. Really kill yourself for 6 months to a year, and then you'll be flying at that point.
And do you think it makes a huge difference if you're posting 5 times a week versus once a week consistently for that first 6 month period?
I would say yes. I'd say, and you need to be in the comment section, and you need to be in everyone else's comment section, and you need to be doing collaborations. You just need to be doing it all at the beginning. And it also sets you up for good habits later. So even now, what you find is your followers, so some of my followers started were, for example, I did BBC Radio 1 yesterday, so the presenters were my followers, and so then you get onto more channels, and so it just snowballs. And then you get these incredible opportunities that you would never have had otherwise if you're cold calling almost. So there are lots and lots of benefits to having a following. It's not just selling product. It's getting awareness out. You might have read a book and thought, you know what, everybody needs to know this information. This is going to help so many parents from my perspective. And so that's just another way of doing it. So it's, I would say, having a following and having a tribe that you're all trying to improve each other's lives is value added to everybody.
So value add is the key thing that you think you really need to be focusing in on.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And find your niche. So you don't want to be doing the same things as other people. You need to find out what makes you special. So I know a lot of followers will watch my content and then rehash my content, but it's never going to hit the numbers that they want it to hit, because you need to have your own organic niche, something that you're passionate about, that you can infuse your own DNA into. So that's the other thing I'd say, is be a little bit on the cusp and maybe bring in two different disciplines together to create your own niche.
No, go on.
I was going to say, if someone's not in a field that they're passionate about already, what would be your advice to someone that's trying to find what that passion is exactly?
I'd say skill stack. So previously in our generation, we would say, do just medicine or do just one degree, and that will basically carry you for the rest of your life. In this day and age, that does not work. So I say to my daughter, who's 10 years old, if you want to do medicine, you also have to do other things, maybe coding, maybe horse riding, maybe photography, maybe other things that you can then combine. Then find your Venn diagram, find the sweet spot, the area that nobody else can add value in, and see if there's a blue ocean there for you. That's how I would do it. Don't just do what everybody else is doing and one skill is not enough. We need to have multiple skills. Continuous learning is essential.
Absolutely.
What I'm finding...
I couldn't agree more. And that's such an interesting way to do it as well. And I haven't heard that before, but it's just, in a way, kind of so obvious when you say it.
Well, that reminds me of something called Ikigai. I don't know if have you heard of Ikigai?
No.
It's a Japanese philosophy, which is similar. It's about finding your passion, and I don't want to butcher it, but I think the idea is you find what you enjoy and you find what can make money, and then you find I can't remember what the third piece is, but you basically put them together and it's the same kind of thing.
The Venn diagram.
The Venn diagram. I think it's a really interesting way of looking at it, because you are right. There is like a more and more of a need for individuality and separating, especially with things like AI coming.
100%.
If you're just a sort of stock person 100%. In your industry.
I think a lot of the degrees we're looking at now are going to be obsolete. A lot of the professions we're looking at right now are going to be obsolete. And I don't think parents are aware of this. And so we're almost pushing the agenda on our children that was pushed on us, which was, these are the top degrees that you can do, and then you'll be set for life. And it's just not the case. I even think the way doctors function now is going to be quite different to 10 years from now. Yeah.
I was going to say, because I think a lot of people, when you think about AI replacing jobs, you think lawyers, accountants, estate agents. You don't think doctors.
I'm sure there's going to be a way, because a lot of medicine is rote, right? A lot of medicine is learning. Once they've figured out how to do a physical examination, take a history, they might basically have like one doctor almost supervising 50 consultations happening. Something it'll look different to the way it is right now, because we don't have the labor. We have fewer and fewer doctors, and so we're going to have to innovate. That's my gut. This is not, in stone, but this is what I think is going to happen. And that's part of what we need to do, is predict how AI is going to affect us all, because otherwise it's going to catch you off guard And those ones who haven't thought about it might find themselves in a difficult situation.
What sectors do you think are going to be least affected by it, or at least the longest to survive an AI revolution, should we say?
You know, it's odd. We used to think creativity, the creative sector, was going to be the one that was going to be hit last, but now I'm seeing AI in the creative sector too.
Yeah. I saw an AI thing on Instagram the other day. I feel like that's all I see now. The algorithm clearly knows I'm looking at that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It's
we
just
all
sending me
are.
that stuff. But it was, and I showed it to him as well. It was like this thing where it was like, it made a bunch of different things in the style of a Wes Anderson movie.
Oh, wow.
And so it made like a Nike product shoe. It made like a character from a movie. And it showed all the different verticals of media in the style of Wes Anderson. And it was like, it was so real.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, yeah, okay, so this means like graphic designers, they're coming for you too. And and modeling as well.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yes, AI models.
AI
I've seen
models.
that.
Our friend sent us a thing with an issue. He was like, he kind of tricked me. He was like, look how hot this girl is. And I was like, yeah, she's beautiful. And he was like, yep, AI.
That's
And he was like, my friend uses that for his company. He doesn't have to pay models anymore because he can save so much on cost because he can just
my goodness.
he can create an AI to look how he needs it to look.
And
Like,
it can say what it wants, and
yeah, well,
you can
that was a
do what
still
you want.
image, but yeah, in terms of video, I think they're getting there. But
Yeah.
for still image, for kind of product images and
Yeah.
for social media images and stuff,
Yeah.
he was like, he said his friend who has this fashion company already was like, I don't need to pay models anymore because I can just literally, I can pay a model thousands and thousands of pounds, or I can go on an AI and be like, I want a girl that looks like this.
Yeah.
This is what the product looks like, and it's free.
I agree.
Scary.
I
It's
think personal
terrifying
brand is
sometimes
going
like
to
that.
agree.
Personal
That's why
brand.
personal brand is so important
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
Because as great as an AI can be, it will basically only replicate what's already there.
Yeah.
We need human connection. That's one of our core human needs. So that's something that also happens with having a following, is that you have a human connection. You can instill your values and promote your values. And teach as well. So that's one thing that we can do to sort of protect ourselves from the AI bubble. But you're absolutely right. We don't even know how this thing is going to evolve, and it may start creating its own personalities and actually have its own personal brand. Who knows? You know.
That's terrifying. In of itself, that thought is terrifying.
I know.
Yeah, go on.
Now, I was going to say, actually, I wanted to touch on the product lines that you
Yes.
launched. So 35 products is a lot.
Yeah, 35 books in how long?
In
A
18
year and a
months,
half,
is it?
Eight months.
Yeah.
I mean,
That is a
okay.
huge amount of upfront work. So
Yeah.
can you just talk us through, some of the products that you launched,
Yeah.
like the sort of work you did to
Yeah.
go into that, how you launched it, and paint a bit of a picture there?
So those are 35 that passed, right? So I have another 20 that
Wow.
failed.
Okay.
Yeah. So each product is expensive to do the R&D in the first place. So the way it works, so in Zinkable, my sunscreen, I created the world's first mineral sunscreen that had no white cast on skin of color. That was extremely difficult to do because imagine you're working with 18% zinc oxide. That's a metal oxide that almost looks like chalk. Okay. So you've got 20%, say, chalk in a solution, and you need to make it invisible somehow on skin of color. That was extremely difficult. And then to get that at PA4+, so maximum UVA protection as well, was very difficult. So that process took a year and a half just for Inzinkable. And I started that product first because I knew that had the greatest need, but was also going to have the longest time for us to pass that one. The other products are much easier because generally, if you're doing a cosmetic formula, whether it's say it's a moisturizer, we created an acne range, for example. It was a system, it was your wash, your salicylic acid wash, your AM gel, PM gel, and your leave-on exfoliator. Each of those products will take you, for me, I'm in the lab, will take me 2 days to make it. That's quite easy. Then I send it off for stability testing, microbiology. That takes a good 3 months. And then usually we have about 2 to 3 month lead time on packaging and ingredients. Okay. So usually I try and overlap the two because say 1 month in, I find that we're actually passing. We may not have passed yet, but I will go and buy the ingredients because I know that there's going to be a 3 month lead time there and packaging too. So that the following month, once I have passed, I can go straight to manufacturing. So that's how I've managed to cut down the time. Okay. Plus, there's no middleman. So for me, I can literally, when I make a product, I don't just make it in my head. I will go to my followers and say, hey, do you guys want an eye cream? Right, what are your key issues? And I'll poll it. Then I'll say, right, these are key ingredients that we need. How many mils do you want? What kind of packaging do you want? And I will show them different options. They will come back to me. So I'm using Wikonomics right from the beginning. So that by the time we come to selling, we've already got thousands of people signed up because they've already helped me create the product. It's not some new cold venture. They've been part of the entire process.
And they're invested in it personally.
They're invested in it, yeah. And so I do that for every single product. My hair range, my anti-aging range. So every single product we've done together as a collaboration.
Wow.
And where are you getting those kind of customers from? Out of interest?
So just our followers.
Just followers. is it?
Literally
Okay.
followers. And so you're educating.
Yeah.
So say, for example, I'm going to teach you about eye creams.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you all the products that are on the market at the moment. I'm going to tell you the best ones and the worst ones. And I'm non-sponsored, so I don't accept money from anybody. And so, everything I'm teaching you is coming from data.
Authentic.
That's a really big
Yeah.
thing.
That is a big thing.
Especially
Yeah.
with Instagram, when
Yeah.
you see a lot of clothing brands and skincare brands and haircare brands,
Yeah.
and because that is a very popular way to market
Yeah.
for the beauty industry.
Yeah.
Every time an influencer talks about a hair brand or a skin brand, I'm like, yeah, okay.
How do you feel about it? When you see ad or sponsored, do you just think, oh, they probably still like it, but they're getting paid for it? Or are you thinking they're getting paid for it and I don't believe it?
Me personally, it's the latter.
Really?
I just scroll straight past it because I know the story behind
Yeah.
that connection. At least I assume.
Yeah, the
story,
assumption is there,
The
so
assumption
yeah.
is there behind that story that it's just not authentic.
Yeah.
I would say I actually disagree.
Yeah.
I think it depends. I think if I see someone like Kim Kardashian doing it, I believe it less.
Yeah.
Because I know that the paycheck she got is fat.
Millions.
Yeah. But if I see like a micro influencer or a smaller influencer, and I also, I think it depends on what the brand is, because I think initially I was like him, I didn't believe anything. But then as we grew and we got our first sponsor, we were thinking about sponsorship and we were talking to people and we really wanted these guys specifically because we had a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
And I think that turned me to the point where I was like, actually, and we talk about it all the time, there are so many products where we're like, we would love to be sponsored by them as well. We would love to work with these guys. We would love to promote that product. And so I'm thinking about if someone saw us promoting something, what would they think? And I know that is real. So
Yeah.
therefore I must have some faith in other people that theirs
Yeah.
is real, if that makes sense.
It's hard, isn't it? Because if you're the influencer, and I totally understand why people take sponsorship, because it takes time to put content together. It's expensive to put content together. So people sometimes don't know that from when you're the follower. So I understand that logistically, people are going to need sponsorship. So it then becomes really hard for the influencer to convince the follower that this is something that they genuinely love and have probably purchased in the past, and now they're being sponsored by this company. So I can understand. I do have empathy for those influencers as well, because it's a really difficult situation you're in.
It's a difficult balance.
Really difficult
Yeah, it is.
balance. I'm just grateful. I think for me, because we've got the company where we're making money on product, I don't need the sponsorship on this side, but I have been given blank checks basically by every major skincare company, and to say no to that was it did make me think, is there something wrong with me?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
Because no one else has said no to
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, I also think it depends on if I think there's going to be an interest on behalf of the sponsor that's going to affect the quality of what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you see a company like Pepsi sponsor something,
Yeah.
especially an influencer or a creator or a podcast or something, the content of that podcast is 99% probably not going to come out how the creator would have wanted it, because if it's Pepsi or whoever, I don't want to get sued or anything, but if it's Pepsi or whoever, if they make an edgy joke or they make a bad comment or they ask the wrong question, Pepsi or whoever will be like, hey, yeah, you're not having that in the episode.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll be like, well, it's our podcast. And I'll be like, yeah, well, we're paying you $400,000 an episode. So
Yeah.
that's not going in. And obviously the creator needs the money. So the creator's going to be like, well, we have to listen to them. So I think it
Right.
depends on the corporate relationship as well. And same thing with
Interesting.
skincare. If if someone's promoting a skincare product that's not theirs, they're limited to what they can say about skin.
Yeah.
Because if you're a skincare expert, which obviously you are,
Yeah.
if you're working with another skincare brand, if you didn't have your own, if I ask you something and you say that, I don't know if you're really saying that because you believe that or because you kind of have to say that.
Exactly.
It's like not accountants, what am I thinking? Financial analysts and things like that. When you go to a financial advisor
Yeah.
and they can partner with brokers and they can
Yeah.
partner with brokers that
Yeah.
recommend specific funds, and that's legal.
Yeah.
And I've always found that
Yeah.
mind blowing
Yeah,
that that's
yeah.
a thing. And people have no idea that if you go to a financial advisor and they recommend a certain fund,
Yeah.
they can be partnered with that fund and incentivized and commission based.
I didn't know that. I thought they had a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that.
I think they do, but I think it's a very grey area.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there is very much the possibility that funds that are recommended. I don't want to
Wow.
speak. I mean, I'm not an expert in this
Yeah,
field, but from
okay.
what I've heard, there is very much a real possibility.
So it's just
that can
basically
be
if you've got
changed.
an ulterior motive,
Yeah.
and there's something else. And I think humans generally, we are a bit suspicious anyway,
Yeah.
and we do make assumptions and we do have shortcut thinking. So we do need to be aware of that as the influencer ourselves. Even for me, so I just did a male skincare clinic. I had 6 men come down. They were all celebrities in their own rights, but they came down just from their own goodwill rather than being sponsored or being paid to come. And I think that just makes all the difference. When people are just coming because they love the product or they love you, then it feels nicer from the brand's perspective.
course.
I myself don't even want to pay someone to say that they love my product, because even I'd be like,
Yeah.
you know, Dr. V's the whole thing about me is that I'm non-sponsored, so how can I now be sponsoring people to come and do my, you know, it doesn't feel right to me
of
either.
course.
And there's only so long you can do that as well.
Pardon?
There's only so long you can do that.
Isn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah.
It feels very short term.
Yep.
So if you want long-term growth and long-term love and loyalty, that has to come from I think a place of selflessness where you're sacrificing yourself.
Definitely.
I think they know that I'm sacrificing paychecks, and that I think breeds love, basically.
It's taking the longer term view, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it will pay off, because they'll buy into your brand.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't know you were taking that road. A lot of respect for you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's a really.
I do
that's a big
sometimes think,
move.
am I the only one mad out here? Like,
No. I feel
yeah.
I feel the same. I have a lot of respect for you for that.
Yeah,
Oh,
a lot of
thank
people
you.
don't, and I think it's unusual that you do.
Yeah.
And it clearly shows.
Oh,
you know,
thank
when
you.
people are looking at your brand.
yeah, definitely.
So you've built the skincare brand.
Yeah.
You've obviously got a big audience. How do you scale? Because that's a really, really hard thing.
Do you know what? You're completely right. My biggest problem right now, and I get a lot of flack for it, is that shipping times are ridiculous. Okay, so right now, imagine you buying a moisturizer from me and you live in the US. It's taking 14 days for my moisturizer, 10 to 14 days for it to arrive to you.
Wow.
Because you're relying on DPD or, you know, Royal Mail or any of these couriers. They all take the same amount of time. And so we're now at a point where you think, you know, like, I have to do better. And so right now we're talking to a distribution warehouse in the US where we can ship our product there and then they can ship locally within 2 days, a little bit like Amazon does. But that's a big thing, because it sounds like a really easy thing. It's like, Dr. V, why don't you just do that? It's because every single product line has to go there in bulk, and we are constantly selling out. So even now, touch wood, like our rate of growth doubles every 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And so we don't even know how much stock we're going to have 6 months from now.
Yeah.
And I have a 6-month lead time. So it's almost now that I have to buy stock, or, you know, buy enough ingredient for stock for the second batch, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's without shipping to US or Middle East or anywhere else in bulk. So it is something I need to do, but because it's all self-funded, I don't take financing from anyone. We don't take loans, and I don't owe anyone anything. I have no stakeholders. Everything's done from my own pocket, which means I have to be prudent and
Fiscally responsible.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
otherwise
of
you can
course.
get into trouble
No,
really
quite
quickly.
easily. Definitely.
I think I've seen that happen as well.
Yeah.
People can go bankrupt by trying to grow too fast. So it's just getting that balance right of, you know, making enough stock, you know, that's going to sell within 6 months, not longer and not shorter. And then I think within a year, hopefully I should have fulfillment centers in the biggest continents where we sell. But India is my other huge territory, and India is a bit of a different category because they have a 60 to 70% duty customs. So imagine you buy a sunscreen that costs you £25 here. In India, it's costing you £40, £45.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And if you sell on their biggest e-commerce website, so I was selling on Nykaa, it's like our Cult Beauty, they also have a margin. So the products go up to £60, and I was making £2 at the end of it.
Wow.
Which didn't even cover anything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it was just the maths didn't add up. So I had to pull everything off from India. But now we've got something huge coming for India, but we have to manufacture in India and distribute from India. That's the key for India, is that you have to have it made there, so you're not paying customs, but also it's made for that environment, that climate. So that's a completely different thing that I'm working on that hopefully should come out this September.
Okay.
But yeah, within the year, I think I should have sorted out all my major logistical issues. But it's just happened so fast. You're literally learning on the job, and it's not like I've got anyone to learn from. You have to figure it out yourself. So
Were you did you have the skincare line before the audience, or did you have the audience first?
No, we had so I had a very small audience. I think about 50,000
Okay.
on Instagram, and nothing on YouTube and nothing on TikTok, and that was just for the clinic. So I was teaching about hyperpigmentation for the clinic there.
Gotcha.
Then within because it was quite easy for me to make product, within 3 months, we'd launched the first product, which is a lip pigmentation kit. And that was a trial product. I only made 1,000. I just wanted to see, was this thing going to work, you know, or not? Really, am I going to bomb or not?
How much did it cost you to put out that?
The lip pigmentation kit?
Yeah, to make that one product and test it.
So it's about 1,000 units. I don't know, about
Ballpark.
about 60 grand. 60 probably.
Yeah.
And most of that went into R&D, did it, or was it
That was
upfront
not R&D.
costs?
That was just the product cost. So then
Product
the
cost,
R&D
okay.
is like another, I think, 20 grand on top.
Right. Okay.
And then the testing is another 10. So all in.
It's
yeah.
really, I mean, it's crazy because, you know, just on that, we had, do you know Akash Mehta from Fable and Main?
Yes.
Yeah, so we had him on and we were asking him about the cost of starting a beauty
Okay.
business. And he was saying, you know, it's really hard to do it for less than like 300K. But
Yeah.
it's crazy because when you say, I just wanted to launch one product just to test it, I only
to
had
test it,
1,000.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm just going to make a small batch of something and
Yeah.
see if it works and product test it. And even that costs like 60 to 100K.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
And
but-
I own the lab. So the lab itself,
Yeah.
I've got to pay
Wow.
for rent
Okay.
on the
Yeah,
lab
of
and all
course.
the ingredients. So usually when you buy, if you look at my product ingredient list, I don't just do, you know, 5 ingredients in a product. Mine tend to have a good 30 to 40 ingredients in a product. And each one you have to buy 50 kg barrels.
wow.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay.
That's like human size.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a small human.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do
So,
you,
yeah.
do you think? Sorry, no. You were going to ask the
Yeah.
question first in terms of the launching the first.
Oh
line
yeah,
and
so
how
then
that got
we
started.
launched that and I couldn't believe we sold out of that product because lip pigmentation no one has ever looked at, treated, no one's ever talked about it. And I just thought, is this even something that, you know, there's a huge need for? I've been asked about it, but being asked about it and someone actually buying a product that's £100 are two very different things.
Yeah.
So when people actually started buying it and we started selling out, I realized, hold on, I think there's something here. I think we can actually grow quite big. And this is just lip hyperpigmentation. What about all the other issues that we have? What about stretch marks, you know, from, you know, etc. So this is the economics of the cosmetics world. The vast majority of products are being sold in your local drugstore, whether it's Walgreens, Boots, or wherever you are in the world. Those companies take 30 to 50% margin of your product. And you have to be able to manufacture and have enough fat in the system to be able to reorder the second and third batch. Otherwise, you'll go bankrupt. So knowing that, and say you're selling a product at £5, that means they've already taken £2 away. Your VAT is gone. That's also another £1. And now you're left with £2. Now, in that £2, you're going to have create by packaging. So my packaging costs about £1 per jar. And then your the ingredient that you're filling it with. Now, because I'm using expensive ingredients, the ingredients itself are £5. You wouldn't be able to sell it, let alone manufacture it. So if whatever you're buying in Boots, just as a matter of maths, the ingredients have to come up to less than 50p.
So the model,
Wow.
so the model must be then just direct to consumer. As you
That-
say.
it is,
That's
it is.
the
Yeah,
way-
it has to be,
It has to
yeah.
be because that's the only way you can
It
actually.
is, but the other thing to know is the product you're buying in your local drugstore are cheap product. Meaning, not just you're buying it and it's cheap.
That's just blown my mind.
The ingredients being put in there,
I see
no
what you
matter
mean, yeah,
what
yeah.
the claims are.
Because by definition, it has to
It has
be
to
that.
be. It has
Exactly.
to be, yeah.
And that's what people don't understand.
Wow.
And so that what I realized was, hold on,
That's so
these are all
nuts.
really cheap products with lots of claims.
Yeah.
But actually, what I realized is they're not using ingredients in the therapeutic index. Their cosmetic regulation is very lax. You can, for example, put 0.0001% retinol and say this is a retinol cream.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Okay.
I saw
And
that.
sell
I
it for
saw, I
£50.
saw the video you did on
Yeah,
the retinol creams. I
yeah.
watched that same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't think people didn't realize this because there's a curtain on the cosmetic
Yeah.
world and no one's going to expose it.
Yeah, of course.
And so when I started exposing product after product after product,
Yeah.
then people started to understand. And then they went, hold on. So actually, Dr. V, can you make us a product? These are percentages we want. These are the ingredients that we want, and put them together. And so I started making tyrosinase inhibitor kits with 10 tyrosinase inhibitors. That doesn't make any logical sense. The reason is you can only remember 3. So if you're in Boots, you'd be like, oh, this is a retinol cream. I can remember 1 ingredient. You would never remember 10 ingredients. So why would you put 10 ingredients in when it's financially not viable and people aren't going to remember anyway?
Yeah.
And so that's why that model didn't work for me. It's because I had to create a whole new world where people can learn, they can educate themselves, and they can buy D2C. So there's no middleman.
Yeah.
I don't need to give an extra 30% margin to anybody. So imagine for me, you're buying a retinaldehyde retinol serum, which doesn't even exist on the market. You can't actually buy it anywhere else because there's such expensive ingredients to combine together at a reasonable price that it just wouldn't be viable on any shelf. And that's the vast majority of skincare.
You win by default. That's mad.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a second to talk about our sponsor for this episode, Furniture Box. Furniture Box is an online furniture retailer that makes awesome products for everywhere from your bedroom to your office. Now, we actually had Monty and Dan, the co-founders, on our show. That's how we met. We loved their story and we hung out with them afterwards, and we knew that we wanted to work with them. And here's the thing. One of the biggest issues I have whenever I've ordered furniture in the past is that certain big name furniture companies, not naming any names, will charge you a fairly large fee for delivery, and even then that delivery usually takes a few days, if not longer. With Furniture Box, not only do they offer free next day delivery, but they're now planning on extending their delivery cutoff even more so that you can literally order a dining set as late as 8 p.m. and be eating dinner on it the next day. So to put it simply, there's no one in the UK furniture scene that's doing anything like what they're doing, and we're thrilled to have them as our sponsor. So click the link in the description and check them out. Now back to the episode.
Are you going to make any products for white guys?
Do you know what I'm being asked at the moment? I have, do you know what? Maybe one day, but there's so much. I want to totally conquer the skin of color.
I was about to say, that's your niche. Do you plan on, because I was going to ask about expansion anyway, do you plan on being the woman for skin of color?
100%. There's something else I'm working on at the moment, which is very exciting. And I might as well talk about it.
I was going to say,
TGF exclusive.
TGF exclusive.
So I'm working on, so I always look at my own life and think, what do I want created? So I'm looking at my daughter, I'm thinking she's 10 years old, and in a few years she's going to start getting acne. And most children are going to say, Mummy, I want to wear foundation to cover my acne, but the foundation's making the acne worse. So I thought, how can we, if this was my daughter, what would I want to create? And it would be foundations that were actually skincare. So I would create foundations that are antimicrobial with niacinamide, with your vitamin A in it, with your tyrosinase inhibitors in it, that were anti-inflammatory, that treated the acne and covered the acne.
Is that even possible?
Yeah, so
because I'm familiar with that circle of
exactly. So no one's ever done it. Okay. And so we just did our first sample last week, and I love it. I'm wearing the foundation at the moment, actually. But it
Look
just...
at you, you're beaming. You really believe. I love that. You really believe in what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy. What I'm struggling with, honestly, is how do I get the right number of shades? So I look at Fenty, for example, and they've got 50 shades, and I can't afford to do 50 shades. You know, I'm literally self-funded. So how do I do this? And I'm thinking maybe we create a palette where you have a lighter shade and a darker shade, and you can mix it to your shade. But again, this is a whole new world for me, and I don't know how easy that's going to be for people to do. So again, I'm going to do that in collaboration with my followers and say, hey guys, is this easy? Is this difficult? How do we do it so that, you know, I'm only making 10 shades but covers everybody, rather than 50 shades, because I'm not, you know, Giorgio Armani.
Well, that's the other thing, because obviously, again, I think people don't necessarily comprehend the fact that when you've got a big audience, you have the beauty of you get to ask them. So you can literally, not only do you have a built-in audience to sell to, but you have a built-in audience to tailor your product to.
100%.
That's a huge thing. What you were saying about, for example, someone like Fenty, who also has a foundation line, because of what you're trying to do, does that mean that it's probably also cheaper to produce other foundations because they're just makeup, whereas your makeup and skincare? So is your product more expensive?
For me, everything is more expensive. Yeah, like for example, Alpha Arbutin costs you £1,000 per kg, and so you're putting in 2%. That's quite a lot, you know, and that's just one of my ingredients. So absolutely, my products are a lot more expensive to make, but the only reason I can make it affordable is because there is no 30% margin going to anyone else. If there was, my products would have to be double the price.
Yeah, right. With you.
In order to, because then also you have to make sure the shelves are continuously stocked. Otherwise you get penalized. Right now, if I run out of product, it's not the end of the world. It's not great, but it's not the end of the world, because we have an email list, and then as soon as it's back in, you know, the email list goes out and everyone buys immediately. So we don't have that lag. So that definitely does help.
I wanted to ask, I mean, you've obviously got a degree of authenticity when you started, given your obviously medical degree or medical career prior. What would be your advice to someone who maybe wants to start a beauty line or skincare line or hair care line, whatever it might be, who doesn't necessarily have that background or has the access to laboratories and that sort of inside knowledge, should we say, but perhaps wants to launch something that where they see a gap in the market?
Yeah, I think anyone can do anything. So I'm all about growth mindset. Even if you've come from, being a pilot and you decided, I want to create a sunscreen for pilots. You can use your background to do anything you want in skincare. What I would do is, number one, look for a niche. Don't create another Me Too product. It's not going to do well, because now you're working on pennies and you're probably going to go bankrupt. You're going to lose everything. And it really is soul crushing when a business fails, because it's not just money, it's your time. It's your valuable time that you can never get back again. So really make sure you've got something that doesn't exist. If it exists, don't do it. And I say that myself. If something exists, I won't make it, and I'll say, hey guys, go and buy X, Y, and Z. It's excellent, and I buy it for myself or I buy it for my kids. So that's the first thing I'd say. Second thing I'd say is, you can hire a cosmetic formulator to make what you want, and just have a look at their past work, and make sure you like it, because there are a lot of not very good cosmetic formulators out there. Third thing I'd say is watch my videos, because I basically teach you. All the cosmetic formulators are watching my videos and learning and then improving their own formulas. So, it's free information. I would definitely watch those videos on YouTube. And then after that, I would say build a following. That's absolutely key. It's nowadays, it's hard to be anonymous and have a brand. So I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, look, Vanita, I don't feel comfortable putting my face on camera, and I don't, how can I do it without putting my face on camera? And I don't know really how you do that now, because it's extremely expensive. I remember when I first started, I felt the same way. And I looked at influencers and they were charging £5,000 for a story. And I just thought, I don't have £5,000 for a story. I'm going to have to figure this thing out myself. So unless you've got extremely deep pockets, even then, I think people need that connection. They need to trust you. They need to believe you. Like, how many airbrushed pictures have you seen of ads, and you just think, oh, I just don't believe it.
I don't even register it.
Don't even register.
You see like a massive designer ad with something, it's just, it doesn't even register.
I totally agree with you. Like, even billboards now, they just don't work. Whereas before, that's all we had. And so I would say, if you're not feeling comfortable about going on camera, I would really think about if this business is going to work for you, because it's extremely hard. It might work, and you might have deep pockets, and you might be able to pay lots of influencers to talk about your products, but most of us don't.
Do you not think that's an argument for most businesses, though? If you're scared to get on camera, that actually there's a question as to whether or not you should be going into it.
I think in this age, probably, yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah, it feels so unfair, though, because
I agree.
Not everyone it does feel. My husband doesn't feel comfortable on camera at all. He's not on social media, but I'd feel awful to say, you can't start a business. I just think it's much easier to start a business if you can become confident on camera. For example, I was terrible at public speaking growing up. I had a really horrible experience at 14. I remember I might as well go into it now.
Another TGF exclusive.
Another awful time. I was on stage, and we were doing debating, and I was debating the head girl on, do blondes get more attention than brunettes? And I'd never debated before. I had no idea about strategy, and she annihilated me, and to the point that even I was voting for her. And I just remember when he said, put your hands up, which one do you agree with? I was just 100% had voted for Katie Metcalf. Zero hands for me. And I remember dying in that moment in my skin and thinking, I will never put myself in this situation again. I will never be on stage. I will never do this to myself. And so for 10 years, I didn't, until I was 24. So 14 to 24, I refused to stand on stage. Plus I'm dyslexic. So reading out loud was also terrifying for me. And then I went on this wonderful course by Andy Harrington, who taught me about public speaking. And it was just a weekend course. And I realized, actually, I can do this. And actually, I really love this. And that's, helped me come out my shelf. So often it's just having the growth mindset. It might be that something's happened to you when you're younger and that put a mental block to make you think that you don't want to be on stage or put yourself out there. And if you just maybe read some books and go on some courses, you might find yourself coming out of your shell. So that's probably what I would say there.
That's really good advice. I wanted to ask, because I know that my mum is watching, and I know that she'll be thinking, this is so amazing. I'm so amazed to learn about all of this. And the thing about I know how she'll react to the pharmacy thing. She'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
I think everyone will be mind blown by that.
That's really that's a clip.
It's a scary insight.
Immediately. Yeah, but that's crazy. I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time. But I know that she will be thinking right now, well, where can I get something? Because she's not a woman of color.
Yes.
So she'll be thinking, what can I do?
Yeah. Okay, so what I would say is start with ingredients. So I'm going to talk about brands, which brands I love.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever you
okay.
like, whatever you like.
So The Ordinary.
This is just for my mum. No one
Okay,
else can
amazing.
see this.
The Ordinary and the Inculist are both excellent brands,
Okay.
and they're single active brands.
The
So
Ordinary and the Inculist.
The Inculist, yeah, both
Okay.
available from Boots. And
How do you spell Inculist?
Inkey. It's a
Okay.
black and white bottles.
Oh, Inculist. Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
and even Boots' own range is very good. Not all of them, but what I would do is find the key actives that you want. CeraVe is a very good moisturizer.
I use CeraVe.
Very good, yeah. And then the retinol from which is a very good retinol. ROC is a very good retinol that's fragrance free.
What is a retinol exactly?
The retinol cream, vitamin A, which is
Vitamin
good
A,
for
right.
wrinkles, hyperpigmentation. And so I would just go, if you want to keep it cheap and cheerful, go with single actives. The difficulty for skin of color is that single actives generally don't work for us because we need cocktail creams. We need everything on the skin all at once to get the sort of effects that we want. So the skin of color is a little bit different. You can get away with more with Caucasian skin. Also, you don't burn and get hyperpigmentation like we do.
Right.
So for us, I always say one scratch, one bite, or one burn, and we hyperpigment. So we can't afford to burn our skins or irritate our skins or do chemical peels that are too deep for us, or do laser that can burn our skin. There's so much we can't do that we were doing, that we weren't educated on. And so you saw a lot of people of color with hyperpigmentation from burns.
Well, that's the thing. I think another thing about skincare that maybe is a bit daunting to me and probably to a lot of people is that it does feel like there are so many different products.
Yeah.
And I've heard everything from I've spent a lot of time with dermatologists because I had acne when I was a teenager,
Okay.
and I've been on Accutane,
Okay.
and I came off it about a year ago.
Your
Half a year
skin's
ago.
great.
Thank you. It wasn't before. It wasn't awful, to be fair. It was never. I was quite lucky. It was never like really, really bad. But it was bad, and it was kind of bad when I was a teenager. And then after that, it was just like I would get occasional like red acne spots like around my head and my neck, and it was painful. And I didn't like it, and I hated having pictures taken of myself and stuff like that. So I wanted to actually ask you about Accutane and what your thoughts are on it.
It's excellent, but it's last line. So you would do everything over the counter first because there are side effects that happen with Accutane. It can affect your mental health. If you're of childbearing age as well, you have to be careful because it can lead to miscarriage. And so there are downsides to it. Plus, you have to keep having blood tests to make sure it's not affecting your liver. So it's not for everybody, but it's incredibly effective if nothing else is working, especially if you have cystic acne. If you have cystic acne and you have skin of color, it's going to scar. And so for us, scarring is actually worse than the acne itself. And so I actually say for children who are starting to get acne, they need to be put on the right skincare from a young age. And nowadays it's happening at 9-10 years old. Kids of 9-10 years old are starting to get acne and their parents are sort of ignoring it and hoping and thinking it's a teenage problem. And it's not. Nowadays, they're going through puberty younger, periods are starting younger. So you really want your kids on a great skincare routine from 9. Okay. And so that means salicylic acid washes, it means niacinamide serums, or niacinamide moisturizer and SPF 50.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to...
Every day, right?
Every day. And then
Yeah.
they're not going to age as badly as well. So this is the other thing. A lot of us didn't wear sunscreen growing up. But
Yeah, and I think because when I had to get consulted about getting Accutane, my dermatologist was like, you have to wear sunscreen every day.
Yeah.
And an ex-girlfriend had told me that once, and I was like, what, I live in England.
Yeah,
I'm not
multiple
going
times a
I'm not
day.
on a holiday.
Yeah.
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 And then the dermatologist said it, and I was like, wow, but when I tell people that, they're like, what, you wear sunscreen? What, just
Are they
in
still-
December when you go out the house? And I'm like, yeah.
Are they still confused about that?
Yeah. I think a lot of people, when you say sunscreen, they think I'm on the beach in Malia. I don't think they think
Right.
it's like February and it's dark and cold outside.
Oh, wow.
And I should
okay.
put on some SPF 50. People
Yeah.
really, to be fair, if I hadn't had acne
Yeah.
and had to see a dermatologist, I wouldn't have probably known either.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I
because
thought...
you're in that world, but
Yeah,
people
yeah.
don't know that. I don't think
Goodness. I know that's a problem. People with darker skin think that they don't need sunscreen.
that is another thing. Yeah,
I just did an article for Vogue the other day on this specific topic on sunscreen and darker skin. Darker skin has an SPF of 7. That's very low. You can't even buy SPF 7 in a lotion. It's that low. So yes, we're slightly more protected than Caucasian skin, but we still get melasma, we still get skin cancer, and we still need to protect. So 100%. If you don't want to age, there's no point, spending all this money on anti-aging creams and retinols if you haven't even done the basics, which is wear your sunscreen. you know. And really, like, for your kids, make sure they're wearing it. So even my daughter today, I popped it in her bag, and you know, she's a bit embarrassed walking around with, you know, my mummy's Dr. V, and I've got Dr. V sunscreen in my bag. But I was like, own it, Sienna, own it.
What do you say to the people who say, I don't use any products, my skin's actually really good, I don't think you need it, I think it's all like a big sales tactic, I actually think less is more? And I know people that say that, and they have annoyingly really fucking good skin.
Yeah.
And I hate that.
Yeah. It's because genes. So you can't fight your genes.
Those goddamn
A
genes.
lot of us have great genes, touch wood, and you know, some teenagers never get acne, and they just have wonderful genes. And actually, for men in particular, you don't get fine lines as quick as women. Women's skin changes earlier than for men, and this is why women start their anti-aging routine quicker than men. Men tend to have heavier musculature. You tend to get deeper expression lines that happen in this area, and start to get almost sagging of the cheeks that happen just because of the heaviness. That's the first signs for men, and slight wrinkles around the eyes. For women, we get melasma quicker, we get fine lines around our faces quicker. Because our epidermis and dermis are slightly thinner. So, and plus on top of that, we're wearing makeup and we might be tugging our faces with removing makeup as well. So there are various reasons why women get into skincare quicker than men. But once men start noticing those changes on their face, then they start to learn about skincare. This is why men tend to be more into hair care, because of a receding hairline, which happens quicker than for women. And so women aren't even, you know...
Yeah, you don't even really think about women receding hairlines.
Yeah, it's not something that... It is something we worry about. Thinning hair is something we worry about, but it tends to be when we're a little bit older, whereas men from their 20s are thinking about hairline and how to keep, you know, a good thick head of hair. So...
So what would you say are the essential things? I mean, obviously for your range, for people of color, if you're watching this and you're someone of color, you are now sorted for life, because you know what you're going to buy. For someone like me, who is white, or like my mom, who's a white woman, what are the essential products? You know, because there's even if it's a good brand, they sell 50 products, and you can't, you know, you wouldn't leave the house. You'd spend the whole day putting stuff on your face.
Yes. Are
Are there essential things where it's like, if you do this, this, and this, you'll be fine?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say keep it simple. If your main thing is that you just want anti-aging and a hydrated skin, which is the majority of us, I would say wash with a micellar gel wash. Simple does a very good one. Then in the morning, I'd apply your fatty moisturizer with ceramides, like CeraVe is very good. And then your SPF 50. So that's it. So 3 steps in the morning, sorted. So now you're preventing any pollution from getting into your pores. You're preventing UV radiation from leading to damage of collagen. In the evening, again, try and keep it simple. I would have your micellar gel wash again. So you're just washing off all the sunscreen and stuff that you've had on during the day.
Are you saying micellar gel?
Micellar gel.
Micellar gel. Okay.
Wash. The reason is it's very hydrating. It's not stripping foam. Sometimes you can feel a little bit squeaky clean, which isn't great. You want it to feel supple after.
And that's from Simple.
Simple's really good, yeah.
Okay.
Then the second thing I would say is your vitamin A. So vitamin A is great. So remember the retinol that we were talking about before is very good because it helps with any hyperpigmentation and fine lines. Can also help with milia, which can happen with age as well. So it helps lots of different things, plus acne.
And what retinol?
So retinol I like, which is a really great retinol. We're looking at 0.3% ideally. I really like Paula's Choice. So that's 0.3 to 0.5%.
Paula's Choice.
Paula's Choice.
Okay.
Yeah, really good. And then follow again by your moisturizer. So even CeraVe, for example, is very good. So these are all products you can buy from a local drugstore. They're all at the correct therapeutic index. They're affordable. And if you just did that, you would have good results. Your skin would feel quite clear. Once a week, I'd probably just add in a chemical exfoliator to the face if you want to get that extra glow and you want to remove any dead, dull skin. I really love lactic acid from the Inky List or mandelic acid from the Ordinary. Both again, 5 to 10 pounds, and they will last you a year because you're literally using it once a week.
It's great to have that as a formula. What would you say to the people who would say to the things you just said with that you can get at a drugstore? They say, but I thought a minute ago she said that everything from the drugstore is like cheap shit and it's going to be bad for me. No. So what I would say is everything from the drugstore is going to be, the actual cost of the ingredients are going to be 50 pence to £1, but that's why they're single actives. So that's why you don't find cocktails. Right.
You would never find 10 actives in one product in a drugstore. It will never happen unless that product is, you know, £70, which they're not going to do. So so single actives, those are the most punchy actives where you're going to get, you know, the best bang for your buck, but they're not combinations.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah,
That's really
it
good.
is. Yeah, it is.
Have you got anything else you
No,
want to go through?
no,
I mean,
no.
that was pretty much it. Acne, very quickly. I wanted
Yes.
to touch on that because I was
Let's do
really
it.
excited to talk to you about this.
Yes, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on what people can do for acne? Because I found that I did everything.
Yeah.
I did fucking.
What did you
ate
do?
well.
Tell me what you did.
Dude, I Clearasil.
No, it's the worst.
Yeah, I know. And that was, but do you remember? I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah,
but
everyone
this
knows
was-
Clearasil.
Yeah, this was about like 14 years ago,
Yeah.
and everyone, Clearasil was the thing.
They were brilliant. The ads were fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was the name of skin. And it was like,
Yeah.
everyone's like, if you got acne, dude, Clearasil.
I know.
And it sucked.
I know.
Didn't work at all. I'm
Did it
sorry,
make it
Clearasil.
worse,
It didn't
or
work.
was it
I
okay?
can't even remember if it made it worse, but it
Okay.
didn't work.
Yeah.
I tried a bunch of other ones. And then at one point, I had this, I went to the doctor and they referred me this, like, it was like a pill.
Okay.
And it was 1 in 10 people. It was meant to work really effectively, but 1 in 10 people will have like an adverse reaction and have projectile vomiting.
Oh, what was that?
That was me.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I'm like, this will be the one. So I did Duac.
Okay, yeah.
That did do
Did
well.
you? Yeah, it's quite good.
But
yeah.
then it's like you have to keep applying it.
Yeah.
So
Did it stain your sheets?
I don't think it did.
Okay.
It's a long time ago. It might have done.
Okay.
But,
It's benzoyl peroxide plus vitamin A, that one. So sometimes it might. The
Well-
benzoyl peroxide can stain a little
well,
bit.
yeah, that was recommended to me and that by a dermo,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, I'll try
Okay.
that, and that did really, really
Yeah,
well.
good.
But then as soon as I stopped applying it, it came straight back.
It will. Yeah.
And I felt like it was like, I feel, and this is what kind of the main point of my question is,
Yeah.
I feel like with acne, it feels to me as someone who's had it that all roads lead to Rome, which is Accutane. It feels like I've tried everything,
Yeah.
but if you stop taking a pill or you stop putting a cream on or
Yeah.
you stop, eventually it will just come back. And it
Yeah.
feels like Accutane is the only thing
Yeah.
that will fix it. What
How
do you
old are you
think
now?
about that? I'm 28.
28.
Yeah.
Okay. So honestly,
That's another TGF exclusive.
honestly, it's you are right to an extent, because the thing is, when you're a young male, you are producing androgens, and that means that you're producing up to 4 times as much sebum even than a female. And so it gets worse during your teen years and your early 20s. And honestly, until that calms down, it's going to be a vicious cycle, because you can keep it under control, but you're not going to completely eliminate it until your own hormones settle down.
Right.
So what's happening now, the reason why Accutane has been so effective is that your hormones have calmed down too. You're producing less sebum. And a lot of people, they can be on Accutane, you know, for many years, and actually their sebum levels haven't reduced. So yes, absolutely, you're right that it's good that you did try other things. But what I would say now, we have got better formulas now. So let me first explain why you get acne. Number one, we have increased sebum production, which tends to happen more in males and females, and it happens during puberty. The second thing are sticky skin cells. So you get something called hyperkeratinization, where basically, if you think about the top of a pore, those skin cells stick together, right? Now you've covered that pore. So now you have an anaerobic environment, no oxygen in that pore. And in that pore then starts to proliferate is P. acnes, so the bacteria P. acnes. P. acnes is feeding on the sebum and producing triglycerides and fatty acids. Fatty acids are incredibly irritating. They are inflammation in a pore. Inflammation is now taking place, and you've got red skin happening around. And for skin of color, you've got hyperpigmentation taking place because the inflammation is triggering the melanocyte, the cell producing pigment. So now you're in a situation where, what do we do now? So number one, we want to use vitamin A to help with the sticky skin cells. Number two, you want to use niacinamide to help with the sebum control. Number three, you want to use benzoyl peroxide 5% to kill the bacteria. You want to poison the P. acnes bacteria with oxygen. If you do those 3 things, you're in a good situation. And then the fourth one that's really going to help is your salicylic acid, the fat-soluble acid that penetrates into the pore and unclogs it, so clears it out. So what your routine would look like would be a salicylic acid wash in the morning. So the Inky List does a good one. And then followed by your salicylic acid leave-on exfoliator. Paula's Choice does a good one. And we do a good one with our Trio Blemish range. Then your AM gel moisturizer. So you want to go for a light moisturizer, preferably with niacinamide in it. And in the evening, it's the same routine. It's your salicylic acid wash, leave-on exfoliator, and then another gel moisturizer. Now, the reason why I had to create an AM gel and a PM gel for acne and skin of color is because during the day you want your niacinamide, you want your green tea extract, you want your anti-inflammatories and antibacterials, but at nighttime is when you want to treat the red marks and the brown marks as well. So that's when we load with retinol, tyrosinase inhibitors, all happen at nighttime in the PM gel. So with skin of color, we don't just get the acne, we get the red marks and brown marks too. So that's why the Trio Blemish range, I had to create a 4-piece kit which treated everything, the acne and all the marks that happen with it.
Wow, that was so comprehensive. Is acne hereditary and at all, by the way?
Yeah. So genes, skincare, skin definitely does go through the genes, including even dark circles, when you start to get fine lines.
Have you got any tips for that, by the way?
Dark circles.
Because I have that, and I've had that for years, and I'm
When did
assuming
you
it's
start?
just lack of sleep, but...
It gets worse with lack of sleep
Yeah.
for sure, because your skin becomes translucent.
Okay.
But ultimately, it's periorbital hyperpigmentation. So it means that the melanocytes around the eye have been triggered. Have anyone in your family get
my dad.
dark circles?
My dad.
Anyone with skin of color in your family? No. Okay. It's actually quite big for Asians. This is a huge problem for Asians. But so what you want to use are tyrosinase inhibitors.
Tyrosinase?
Tyrosinase inhibitors.
Tyrosinase, okay.
So yours aren't that bad.
Yeah.
We do have a dark circles kit, but they're not that bad to use that particular kit.
Okay.
But hopefully this October we're coming out with an incredible eye cream that
Okay.
is for dark circles,
Yeah.
fine lines and puffy eyes, so all three.
Okay. Definitely going to be
And that'll be
looking
more
out for that.
affordable
Okay.
as well. So that one, I think, wait for that one in November. But that's
Okay.
going to have retinol, retinaldehyde formulated for the
Yeah.
eye area.
Okay.
Right now, nobody's ever done that before.
Yeah.
So that'll be really exciting.
Oh, okay. Good. I'll keep an eye out.
I'm so excited by this conversation. It's you clearly have so much passion in what you're
It really
doing.
comes across.
It
Thank
really,
you.
you're
does.
so genuine. You're a lovely person to interview, and it's just been so authentic. Thank you so
you.
much. We like to wrap up every episode with the same question.
Yes.
As you know, we focus on the practical here at the ground floor.
Yeah.
So the same question we ask at the end of every episode is, if you could give one piece of practical advice to someone listening that might be either thinking of starting a business or has already started a business, what would that piece of advice be? Erring on the side of practical, actionable, so less, you have to really work and grind it out and work hard, and something that's like, I did this, budgeting, hiring, marketing, anything.
Yeah. I'd say number one, find a niche. Find something that somebody hasn't done that you wish had been created for you. Number two, growth mindset is everything. You can achieve anything. It doesn't matter what people have told you in the past. People have told you you're clever or you're not clever. It really makes no difference. It's about what you believe inside. And number three, keep learning. So find your mentors. Nowadays, we don't have to be friends with our mentors. We can read their books. We can learn from their mistakes. So Shoe Dog was one of my favorite books.
Yeah, it's really good.
Nike book. Phil Knight. I learned so much just reading his book, learning that he came from grassroots just like I was and achieved astronomical heights just by having that growth mindset. And then the fourth thing is help everyone around you. So really try and help other content creators. We are in this thing together and we rise together. So it's not about competing with each other like it might have been in the last generation. Now it's about helping each other because this is the era that we're in. So those four things I think should hopefully be helpful.
That's really good advice. Yeah, really good.
Dr. Vanita, the floor is yours. Where can people find you?
Hello. So now we're at the camera.
Now this is the time where you're allowed to
Now
plug
we're
and
looking at the
look
camera.
down the barrel of the lens. Yeah.
So you can follow me on Instagram. I'm on Dr. Vanita Rattan and Skincare by Dr. V. Also on TikTok, Dr. Vanita Rattan, and also my YouTube channel, Dr. Vanita Rattan too. Thank you so much for listening.
Said it better than I ever could.
Yeah.
Guys,
It's been so much
tune
fun.
in. Make sure to subscribe, turn on post notifications, get in those comments. Do as the lady says, engage, and we will engage back. And if you're on audio platforms, make sure to rate us 5 stars and leave a review. We have plenty of amazing guests coming up, but for now, Dr. Vanita, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation, so thank you so much.
Thank
giving
you for
us time.
having me.
No,
our
really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.